and go with the home team at Mississippi Farm Bureau. Kendall Rogers joins us right now. Kendall, of course, is with D1 Baseball. Find that online at d1baseball.com. There is simply no website, a group of people that do a better job covering the college baseball game than the entire crew at D1. So, Kendall, let's just dive right into what is, unfortunately, I think the biggest story of the day in college baseball.
Yeah.
And that's this gambling. I hesitate to call it a scandal at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to know more first. I'm sure you've been talking and texting and trying to figure this out. What do we know? What do you know?
So the crux of this whole thing is what I understand is that someone, and it does not appear to be a player because the bet was made at Great American Ballpark in Ohio. That's kind of hard to get from Ohio to Baton Rouge in an hour and a half. But it sounds like somebody who knows somebody went and made a bet real big on LSU to beat Alabama. Now, the really strange thing about this to me is LSU is a heavy favorite. So, like, betting heavy on LSU, that's not something to me that seems weird. But what likely happened from when I've talked to some people in the gambling industry is what probably happened here is whomever it was, whether it was the parlay or the money line, because you can only bet the money line in college baseball in Ohio, what probably happened is someone went in there and put, 5 figures down on LSU. So what happened is probably somebody who's never bet on Alabama baseball before walked in there and said, you know what, I want $20,000 on LSU to beat Alabama tonight. And that probably just tipped them off. So, the question becomes like who is this person that made the bet? Is it the dad of a player? Is it, a player relayed information to a friend? I guess that's the big question. I guess the good news is, because Lord knows Alabama doesn't need drama after everything they've been through in basketball and whatnot, and then recently with this compliance person. But, it does not look like it's a player. And so if it's not a player, to me, it's not that big a deal. Because, I was talking to somebody about it the other day. It's like, I talk to coaches all the time. And so there were coaches who will text me before a game and say, hey, man, we're scratching, Hunter Elliott right now, and it's an hour and a half before the game. I could go out there and go make a bet based on that. It happens all the time, right? We find out information about injuries, and, people will go out and make bets accordingly. So there's nothing illegal about it. The issue that would be, obviously unethical would be if there was a player involved. And certainly that is what I'm wondering now.
If it was a staff
but how
member,
the staff member going to get
then you got a problem.
Yeah. Well, even if it is a person connected to a staff member, it's not the staff member who made the bet.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you're not going in front of judge and jury. At the end of the day, you're telling the NCAA, listen, man, I told my uncle, totally hypothetical, this is based off of that thing, but let's say you're Jason Jackson, you're the pitching coach, and you told your uncle that your starting pitcher was out tonight, and your uncle went and made a big bet based on it. You did nothing wrong.
Or if you want to add a layer, your uncle said that to his buddy, and his buddy goes and makes a bet.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll find it great. I talked to some sources on the Alabama program. They had no idea this was coming. So it does not seem like it's anything nefarious or anything like that. At the end of the day, here's my other thing about Alabama. It's not like they were, scratching Connor Prelip or Grayson Hitt, for some scrub. They were scratching an average pitcher for another average pitcher. So it's not like it was some sort of seismic decision.
Yeah. Certainly different from the flip side if LSU 2 hours before first pitch scratched Paul Skeens. Different story.
Well, yeah, exactly. If there's somebody went and put a ton of money on Alabama because Paul Skeens is scratched, then you can look at this and go, okay, maybe there's something a little odd about this. Or if you looked at Alabama's stat line and, some pitcher is typically really good, was awful, or maybe the catcher, had 6 pass balls and he typically only has 1. But again, it was not a player who was placing this bet. So at the end of the day, I think what probably happened is somebody who's never bet on Alabama baseball before walked in there, put down $25,000 in Alabama to lose LSU, and that just tipped people off the wrong way, and maybe they found a connection.
All right, so Kendall, yesterday we got the news that Scott Foxhall is out as pitching coach at Mississippi State. Let's start with, is this historically significant? We were racking our brains yesterday, and it happens in basketball and it happens in football. You see changes during the season sometimes to staffs. It feels rare, if not unprecedented, in college baseball. Can you think of a mid to late season still during the year firing?
Other than Canizero, not really. I mean, and that was obviously other circumstances, but like
same school, different situation. Not the answer.
Slightly different circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely were no cell phone usage involved in this one. I would say this about Scott Foxhall. Number one, I think the world of Scott. I think he's a fantastic coach, even better person. Sometimes things just don't work out. I will say this about Mississippi State. I think that this is the right call, parting ways with Scott. But I do feel like if you're Mississippi State, you're 6-15 in the league, you're probably not going to make the postseason. Scott Foxhall helped you bring your only national championship in school history. What in the world is waiting 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get rid of him? What? To me, this looks like something that was orchestrated by Zach Selman to make some sort of big splashy impact. I got rid of the pitching coach kind of situation. That's what this looked like to me. I thought they should have waited till the end of the year to get rid of him. But that's what this looks like to me. And I will say this about Scott Foxhall is at the end of the day, he can be a good coach at a previous stop. He could have been a good coach the year they won the national championship. But this is a result-oriented business, Richard. And when you look at Mississippi State, they were 187th in the country in ERA 2 years ago. They were 206th in the country in ERA this year currently. That, to me, tells me you absolutely need to make a change. And maybe they feel like they had to make a change now to, get in front of everyone else in terms of, going to find a new pitching coach. I know of a couple of schools right now that are already reaching out to potential head coaches to fill head coaching, jobs that aren't even open yet. So maybe that's kind of the plan here. But at the end of the day, I think they should have waited till the end of the year. But either way, parting with him is the right decision.
I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, where does Mississippi State go next? Because I think there are too many unknowns between now and the end of the year with Mississippi State before you kind of turn the page to that. So I think that would be unfair.
Well, you can put me on the spot on that. I mean, real quick, I would say this. If Mississippi State is getting rid of their pitching coach right now and then they're going to turn around and fire Chris Lemonis in 4 weeks, that looks so insanely stupid. That could be like a 2-segment deal if that happens, because that the perception of that just looks totally discombobulated. So what this actually tells me is that they're getting rid of Scott Foxhall. They're giving Chris Lemonis a chance to go out and hire a pitching coach to try to fix things, and then proceeding from there. I don't see why in the world you would get rid of Scott Foxhall and then in 4 weeks go, oh, by the way, we're getting rid of our head coach too. What in the world would be the point of that?
Oh, okay, so, if that's the case, then let's play it forward. That Chris Lemonis is still the head coach for Mississippi State, and he gets to go out and hire a new pitching coach. If you're Lemonis, who are you going to get?
Oh. Now that's a loaded question. I'll have to think on that one. I mean, there are some guys around the country that I really like. I look no further than our reigning assistant coach of the year, Josh McDonald at UConn. He's a very odd fit at Mississippi State just because he's like a New York guy.
Oh, my gosh, that'd be yes, but he's a heck of a good coach.
Dude, he is a great pitching coach. I've continued to hear Chris Young being talked about. I think, and I love CUI, but I think if you're Mississippi State, you've got to make a bigger splash than that.
All right, Kendall. So let me throw a name at you, and I do this at the risk of angering Southern Miss fans, and so forgive me for that. Christian Ostrander has had opportunities to leave Southern Miss, and he has chosen to stay for whatever reason. Maybe he thinks that he's going to be the next head coach at Southern Miss. Is that a guy that if you're Mississippi State, you go after?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere, but he's obviously, the thing about Christian was the runner-up last year to Wes Johnson for the LSU job. So if Wes Johnson doesn't get the LSU pitching coach job, Christian Ostrander is probably LSU's pitching coach right now. And so maybe he would look at Mississippi State. The only thing that hurts MSU with this pitching coach search is that if you're Christian and you look at the situation and go, you know what, I think Scott might only have 2 or 3 more years. I can be the next head coach here, or I can go to Mississippi State. And let's just say, okay, let's just play, hypotheticals. Let's say he goes in and let's just say Mississippi State struggles next year. The whole staff gets fired. Then all of a sudden, Christian's back to square one. So I wouldn't make the move if I were him. I think it's pretty risky.